99.7 FM.
Yes, indeed. That's your superstation, Joy 99.7 FM. Well, Nathaniel Atto here on your radio. I'm glad to be here, as always. 20 minutes past midday. And there's a big conversation to have as usual. Thank you so much for making us your number one when it comes to the preferred place for these conversations in sport. This afternoon, the Ghana FA's election, which is expected to come off in the first week of November. Is under the spotlight. We started a conversation on the Joy News channel 2 days ago. We're going to give it more perspective. We're going to delve into it a lot more. And also, we're going to ask ourselves a little question about the giants of the Ghana Premier League and whether, they're ready to bite. Or whether they're ready to resurrect themselves. They always say that when the big names are doing well, there's some buzz around the Premier League here in Ghana. Don't know where you stand when it comes to that conversation, but welcome to the show. Very shortly, I'll get to my guests, but do remember that Oktoberfest is here again. Now, Ghana's premier 5-star hotel and you'll see our MG Hospitality Facility of the Year, Labadi Beach Hotel, brings you another exciting edition of the biggest beer festival in the world, and that is Oktoberfest. So performing live will be the Band Boys Band from Germany, and you can catch all the fun with the German traditional beer at the, and food as well at the plush Labadi Beach Hotel. It's next weekend, 6th and 7th of October 2023, and for inquiries and reservations, please call 0302-772-501 or 0249-532-866 or 0244-747-670. Oktoberfest 2023 is proudly supported by Brussels Airlines. Brussels Airlines, you're in good company. Oktoberfest Beer Festival. Come, let's party. So you know why we're all on Lumba flavor this weekend, right? The legend celebrated his birthday yesterday, together with the man DJ Black, Africa's number one. So I know everybody's been waiting for the Lumba songs to be flowing. You're eagerly awaiting that, right? There you have it. But let me tell you another thing that's eagerly anticipated. It's the Pick One game that has arrived with a big bang. So you choose your favorite number from 1 to 36 and stake and get ready for the excitement as we unveil the lucky number. So you just prepare yourself to unleash even more moolah by staking from 1 Ghana cedi to 350 cedis. Win 26 times your stake on the amazing Pick One game by Game Park. All you need to do is to play by dialing *946# on all networks via website, or download the Game Park app on www.gameparkgames.com and watch our live draws on Adom TV at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. daily. Game Park, more moolah, more power. This game is regulated by the National Lottery Authority, not for persons under 18. My producer Benai is up above 18, so he can play. Just remember to play responsibly, okay? Grace, grace indeed. Adom is grace. And that's another hit song by Daddy Lumba, one of the very few gospel songs. You know he does gospel as well, right? Let me tell you about something that's also very big. Just like, Lumba's image in the music industry here in Ghana. So, another very big football conversation is here with us. Enjoy Sports, together with Joy Business, invites you to the last quarter thought leadership event scheduled for Monday, October 9 at Labadi Beach Hotel. Time is 6 p.m. And it's under the theme Football Economy, repurposing our approach to football development, the Saudi Arabian experience. This event is aimed at providing more practical examples from the massive capital investment that the Saudi Arabian football market has put into the football industry over the years, which has attracted many big brands, including that of Cristiano Ronaldo. Our resource persons from the football investment and marketing and administrative space will give a clear picture and project into what kind of future Ghana is likely to have if deliberate massive capital investments are made in football. Attendance is free and open to all friends in the football fraternity. And it starts from 6 p.m. and it will be broadcast live on the Joy News channel, channel 421 on DSTV and on Joy 99.7 FM. To sponsor this event, call Max on 0267 551155. The Football Economy Thought Leadership event is a Joy Sports, Thought Leadership and Joy Business initiative. And of course, we're going to be going into that later on. But we just want to we just want to start off, on this particular note. We just want to look at the Ghana Premier League so far. I mean, for those of you who are Midiama fans, you're also focusing on their campaign and defending the league title, and also the campaign in the ongoing CAF Champions League. Now, Midiama SC just are a shade away from jumping into the lucrative money zone. We haven't experienced that in at least 12 years. And so we're looking forward to seeing that happen. But there's a wrap of all of the action and what we should be expecting in the coming weekend as we look ahead to some of the big ones. Remember that Coach Prosper Nate Ogum, who is on a second spell at Kumasi Asante Kotoko, says, guys, you know something? It's work in progress and we need to just take our time. Now, he's one of the very few coaches as well that I've seen give big props to his players after they had lost a game. Well, he is using a completely different approach, and we are also monitoring with an eagle eyes attitude to see if Coach Prosper Nate Ogum will be successful this second time. Remember, his standard in the Ghana Premier League with Asante Kotoko is the league title. Is he able to repeat that feat? Well, we'll see. But let's take a listen to this report put together as we, project into the weekend.
To build on their midweek victory against Legon Cities when they make a trip to the Golden City Park to face Brecum Chelsea. Great Olympics welcomed Bibiani Gold Star to the Crossport Stadium, seeking to kickstart their season. Still in the capital, Legon Cities, who lost in midweek, will face Adiona Stars. Then Samatex will entertain newly promoted side Heart of Lions at the Incenture Sports Complex. And at the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium in Tamale, Real Tamale United will play host to newly promoted side Heart of Lions.
We are getting the team ready to play on Sunday, play well and get the results. So there's no pressure from anywhere. We are calm, we are confident in what we are doing at training, and we believe that what we are doing at training will give us the needed performance and the needed results. I believe that, I've always believed that good performance, there's a correlation, there's a link between good performance and results. I have always believed in that. If you look at the cities, the passes and what have you, I mean, anytime they play very well, they win, let me put it that way. So, in the first place, we are not under pressure. Rather, I would rather ask our fans, all the stakeholders within the team, to rally behind the team on Sunday.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Another all-time classic by the legendary Daddy Lumba, starting it off for us here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM, half past midday. And my guest is already seated. He made an attempt at the Ghana FA presidency some years ago, learned some massive lessons, and based on those, is prepared to give us some education. We're also going to take a look at the similarities between the space or the political space around football and that of partisan politics. Are there any similarities? Do you see these things happening on the other side as well? New developments as well. So my guest in the studio has a very rich marketing communications background. On the private scale, he's worked with many notable and big brands here in Ghana, local and multinationals. He's also had a very good track record when it comes to the mobilization of football fans and getting them around and getting them to, support clubs. I'm talking about his work at Accra House of Oak as the chairman of the National Chapters Committee. Eventually, he rose to become managing director of the same club. And at a certain point as well, took part in very active capacity building across the continent of Africa on behalf of FIFA as a FIFA FIFA instructor marketing. You see what happens when you don't drink enough pineapple juice? And of course, he's spoken on many major thought leadership platforms when it comes to football as well. He will be one of our resource persons for our upcoming thought leadership event on October 9 at the Labadi Beach Hotel as well. Neil Armstrong Motagbe, one time an aspirant for the presidency of the Ghana FA. He shared some of that story with us earlier in the week. And he has generated massive conversations, especially because he's also, stated clearly where he stands when it comes to who he wants to, lead the FA going forward. But just before we get into the conversation, let me bring you close to this story, which is on myjoyonline.com, specifically on the sports page. And it has to do with the Ghana FA 2023 elections. The headline is George Afriyie files application for injunction on elective Congress, put together by Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And I read, former Ghana FA Vice President George Afriyie has filed a notice of application for injunction on the association's elections scheduled for October 5, 2023. The application for the interlocutory injunction, which was secured on Friday, September 29 at the Accra High Court Human Rights Division, will be moved by the lawyer of Mr. Afriyie on October 12, per court documents available to Joy Sports. Now, the crux of the application is that the decision of the Elections Committee to disqualify the presidential aspirant and the Appeals Committee upholding the verdict earlier this month is a violation of fundamental human rights, particularly to due process and or fair hearing. Thus, Mr. Afriyie wants the court to render the decisions of the committees invalid as a result of the violation of the plaintiff's fundamental human rights. Now, he's prayed the court to declare that proceeding to elect a president of the Ghana FA despite an appeal pending the Court of Arbitration for Sport violates his human rights, particularly due process and or fair hearing. An order for injunction restraining the defendant to elect a president of its executive council until plaintiff's hearing finally determined and or his appeal currently pending before the Court of Arbitration for Sport is finally determined by that court. Mr. George Afriyie was disqualified from contesting the Ghana FA presidential elections after the Elections Committee found out that his nomination form did not meet the requirements to enable him contest for the topmost position of the Ghana FA. Per the committee, one of the subscribers, Victory Warriors FC, had a signature of Mr. Jeffrey Asare, who is not an authorized signatory of the club per Article 13J2 of the GFA Statutes 2019, hence invalidating his form. Mr. Afriyie appealed the decision, stating that the committee should have given him a window to meet the requirements as per Article 83 of the Ghana FA election regulations, but the appeals committee disagreed in its ruling. Now, it's said that the invalidity of any document cannot be cured by reference to Article A3 of the elections regulations. Indeed, if Mr. George Kwesi Afriyie had submitted in an invalid tax clearance certificate or invalid police clearance certificate, it would have made the nomination invalid. Now, this decision has forced Mr. Afriyie to seek redress at CAS, but wants the status quo maintained until the sports adjudicatory body awards a decision on the matter. This is where we are regarding the status of the Ghana FA elections. What will happen eventually? Well, we do not have the power to tell now. I would like to get into the realities of these elections that happen at the football governing body. There are those of you who are also at the receiving end of all of the work that has been done so far. And that's the reason why this conversation becomes very crucial, especially as we have a couple of days to go for this elective congress, I believe, which is supposed to take place in the northern regional capital of Tamale. Remember, it's 055 11 997 for our WhatsApp messages. Once again, it's 055 11 997 for our WhatsApp messages. Also, you can, prefix with +233 if you're outside Ghana. It's +233 55 11 997. Here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM, as I host Neil Armstrong Motagwe, a former Ghana FA presidential aspirant. These elections. But tell me about your own personal reactions, especially after you stated clearly that you are very much in support of Kurt Okreku's second term, intended second term. And also you stated clearly that you would like to advise George Afriyie to forego this ambition, especially because of these times. You stand by it. Tell me about the kinds of reactions you've had, because we all know the football ecosystem and how
it's been quite interesting. I'm not surprised that you're saying that you've had quite a number of phone calls to discuss what we discussed a couple of days ago. I've also had a significant number of people calling, some more or less questioning why I would ask Mr. George Afriyie to relax his stance, lower his hatches or hunches, and allow the process to go on. I simply replied like I replied that day to you, not that you need to, in an election, look at how the grounds are. But again, you enter into the enterprise of standing for elected office for a purpose. My understanding of Mr. Afriyie's standing for the election was he was aspiring to become the FA president. If that was the purpose, given all that we described, or I described, in terms of the grounds as I saw them and as I still see them. And I'm sure that he also sees what we all saw. But then there probably is something that he's standing. If a blind man says he's going to stone you, it means his leg is on a stone or his foot is on a stone. I just say whatever he's standing on, he alone knows. But what I was standing on when I said that was the reaction of the people who would be electing the president of the Football Association. Their public displays of support for Mr. Kurt Okreku, the sitting president. They are not hiding it at all. It's been a very clear, open, and overwhelming endorsement of President Kurt Okreku. In the light of that, I just felt it. I said, if it was me, let me just say, and we're all different people, but had it been me, with that level of aspiration, I wouldn't stand for the office. And it was on that premise that I said, if I had the opportunity to advise Mr. George Afriyie, and I stand by it, I would say, if it is his intention to one day become the president of the Ghana Football Association, then at this point in time in the process, it will be advisable to say, I fought today, I didn't go through, I will live to fight another day.
But that also does something to the people who believe in your ideals and believe in your brand, believe in what you can do to turn around the fortunes of Ghana football. What happens to them? Even if
or George?
I'm talking about George. So, for instance, I mean, even if let's just say this is hypothetical, that the candidate has about an assured 20% of the votes and has to work up the remaining 35 plus or whatever, then what happens to those 20%? They've been more or less led astray.
Well, I wouldn't say they've been led astray. It will be to meet those who are in support of him and give them a clear picture of his understanding of the terrain, given what I just described. I mean, we've watched in the, let's call it regular partisan political space, not necessarily in Ghana, but I followed Ghana. I mean, we all follow Ghana politics, but I've also followed to a very large extent what happens in the United States of America, where you have a very, very powerful candidate who goes toe-to-toe with another candidate. And classic case in point, one of the more recent such competitive races was the race between President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. You saw how closely run that fight was, all the way to the point where it became clear that Barack Obama was going to get the nomination. And what did Hillary Clinton do? She graciously stepped away. I think George did a similar thing in 2019, in that 2019 election.
Sure.
And so for me, with the backdrop of what he did then, and knowing where or knowing where apparently he stands in the eyes, or where Kurt stands in the eyes of the electorate, I would have thought that he would have repeated what he did in 2019, in terms of remaining consistent with the view that it is clearly apparent that I am not likely to win this election. And I keep saying that unless there is a different purpose to what he's pursuing. But if it is for the elected office of Football Association President of the Republic of Ghana, I would respectfully, very, very respectfully, repeat my advice that he rested.
There's also the conversation about optics and the principle of completing tasks. I mean, so in this instance, he did the honorable thing in 2019. We all saluted him for it. It was a great show of sportsmanship. And then in this scenario, the time is not even up, and the person decides to step. I mean, sometimes the optics,
Well, I keep saying that if he finishes the current process on which he's proceeding, and he still intends to be FA president, he'll come back to the same electorate. The question on my mind, therefore, will be, how would the electorate perceive him when it is that he offers himself again? The recourse to litigation, which is an apparent recourse from what we read, the story you read about, to court for an interim, or I can't remember what type of injunction. Sorry,
interlocutory injunction.
As far as the news I've heard goes, it's an interlocutory injunction to restrain the FA from proceeding with the 5th October elections. He goes through all of that process, and at the end of the day, a determination is made. Let's even assume that a determination is made that he was wrongfully disqualified. I can't conceive that he would go into an election with President Keto Kreku, even under the current circumstances, and expect to win. He will not. That's my candid view based upon the observations that I've just made. You've got 10 FA. Let me repeat it. You've got 10 Regional Football Association chairmen or their vice chairpersons picking the nomination forms of the sitting president. That in and of itself is already 20 votes confirmed out of 123, and out of 62 that you need to cross the 50% plus one. You've got a plethora of Premier League clubs represented by very, very influential and powerful figures of those clubs endorsing openly Mr. Keto Kreku. You've got several Division 1 clubs doing same. You've got virtually every single of the 20 women's Premier League clubs doing same. Where are the votes going to come from for you? With all that I've described, where are you going to get the votes from? You won't get the votes. And that's why I keep saying that if it is his intention to one day be FA president, you want to be perceived by the football fraternity, those who hold the power to elect you, not the general public. And this is not to say to disrespect the general public at all. But the reality of the situation is there is an electorate, and that electorate is made up of those 18 Premier League clubs with their representatives to Congress, those 48 Division 1 clubs with their reps to Congress, those 10 regional football associations with their reps to Congress, the percentage of women's Premier League clubs with their reps also to Congress, and a few other constituent bodies, Coaches Association, Referees, Professional Footballers Association of Ghana. Where are you going to get the votes from when it is the case the majority of these categories that I just mentioned have openly come out to say we are for President Kurt Edwin Simeon Okraku? And it's on that premise that I said if it was me with an aspiration to be one day FA president, I would say to myself that this is not the time. Let me bid my time. Let me be seen to be supportive, not necessarily of Kurt, but of the system, such that the day I put myself up again, I will probably get a stronger looking in the eyes of the delegates to the Congress of the Ghana Football Association.
Not intended to jump the gun, Neil, but are we looking at a future election that will have maybe like a Neil Armstrong Motagbe and a George Afriyie probably? Because
it will be a very interesting election, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's good you say it's a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
You're just looking forward there, but I always say that everything is possible in life, Nat. And if it comes to that one day, it will be left again to the very people I've just described, the delegates to the Congress of the Football Association, to determine who they would want to lead the FA. And you always have to have them in focus. I talked about the grounds the other day, and for me, the grounds are not favorable for anybody in our football.
Okay, there is a special documentary that has been put together by the Joy News team. It's coming up soon. It will be premiering on the Joy News channel soon, and it's the title is very simple: Fear Delegates, coming up soon. Okay, so Fear Delegates is coming up soon on the Joy News channel, and this has to do with partisan politics, but obviously there is a lot in terms of similarity here. Tell me what I mean with what you've also for you as a project consultant as well, what you've seen of the partisan political process and that of what is happening in our football as well. For instance, money and its influence. Let's talk about it and its realities. Did you believe at the time, about a decade ago?
Yeah, 2011.
2011, yeah. So a decade, a dozen years ago.
Yes.
Did you believe that you had enough financial resources at the time? I mean, after you learned your lesson, did you have the muscle to undertake a successful campaign?
Well, let me be honest that at the time I announced my candidature, I wouldn't say I had the financial resources. And by financial resources, I'm talking about those resources that would need you to travel the length and breadth of the country to meet all the delegates, present your manifesto or your ideas or your thoughts of how Ghana football could be to them. But what I had in terms of resource, and please don't laugh when I say it now, was hope.
I see.
It was a hope that the picture of Ghana football that I was looking to paint, or I would paint at my campaign launch, which I did hold, would stimulate like-minded people to support. At the time, Barack Obama had become the first black president of the United States of America in 2008. I watched his announcement of his intention on the steps of the old Capitol building in Chicago, Illinois State, in the United States of America. When I watched him declaring his intent, he looked just like I looked when I was about to announce my intent. He didn't seem to have much around him. Mind you, when he started his campaign, very few people around, no crowds, no major people apparently backing him. I'm talking about the day he announced. But when he started selling his message and putting it out there, it became like there was a wave that just blew in his favor. And you had Republicans openly endorsing a Democratic candidate. You had a campaign that was built on the backs of working class people who were putting $1, $2, $3 just to support this young, he was 47 at the time, who had dared, all right, to challenge the then establishment, because Hillary Clinton was an established politician. She was an establishment figure. All right, the wife of the former president of the United States. He was a two-term president, President Bill Clinton. With all this weight behind her, Barack Obama believed, and that's why he wrote the book, The Audacity of Hope.
Yes.
And so, having seen that audacity manifest in his election, I said, well, why don't you try it here in Ghana also? Why don't you be as audacious as he was? Again, I thought I had quite a lot on the ground, by the way, because a lot of people had said to me, Neil, proceed, advance. You can nick this election. So based upon the idea that your vision could compel people to support you, I put myself forward and made that announcement.
But in practical terms,
let me say it here.
Yeah.
So I'm building up to a point.
Sure.
Would you believe not that after that campaign announcement, or that intention, my declaration of intention or intent, I got a phone call from a childhood friend of mine in Ablinkwe. I grew up most of my younger life in Ablinkwe. So this guy calls me and says,
boy.
Hey, that you can't laugh me. I grew up in Ablinkwe, but I played football on many of the fields in Nima, in Kotobabe, in Alajo, and Abofo. I don't think there's any field in those places where and I go laughing. Okay, I'll leave it there. So this guy calls me and then says, Neil, somebody wants to meet you. And I said, who wants to meet me? He said, you don't need to know the person, but the person is an influential person. And to cut a long story short, he took me to this person's home. And the person said to me, I watched you on TV declaring your intention to stand for FA president. And I liked what I saw, but I need you to convince me as to why I should support your bid. A very wealthy person, deep in pocket. And this was a conversation that we were holding at midnight, by the way.
I see.
I sat there for about 5 hours waiting to see him. I mean,
this is sounding like a typical NDC MPP, you know, like a, you don't know. I mean, it's sounding like like the similar stories of President Kufuor, of the Rawlingses of the Bahamas, you know.
So finally we met the gentleman. In 15 minutes, by the 15th minute, he said, "Okay, Neil, it's okay. Stop. You've convinced me to support you." And that night, that midnight, he started making phone calls to his friends in the sports media to tell them that he was backing my candidature. He didn't stop there. That night, he wrote a check for me and said, Neil, take this and start your work. When you go beyond the nomination, I will back you. The audacity of hope is what I'm talking about.
I see.
So he was just picking learnings.
But you haven't disclosed the
gentleman.
No, yes, both plus the check, and you know.
Oh, no.
Because we are trying to. You see,
suffice it.
We're trying to appreciate, you know, the realities on the ground, because you see, the news of today, you know, the Fred Pappos, the you know, the lawyer Clintons of today, they are the ones we've seen. There are those who have a lot of latent ambitions who will look, and these conversations become very important for them.
So, but I think I've described it in detail. I don't have.
But it's not
I don't have
detailed.
I don't have the permission of the one who sponsored to divulge it, and I just think I need to protect.
Neither
that
do you have,
confidence.
to divulge.
No. Oh, you mean the value?
Yeah.
Oh no, that night it was 23,000 CDs. I won't hide it.
At the time.
At the time, this is 2011. This is
230 million CDs.
Yeah, this is 3-4 years after we did. The value is the same. You know when
Wow.
the 23 grand. That night, a Sunday night, by the way. So things can happen on Sunday night. It's not about working days. It's about having a compelling vision.
I see.
And that's the lesson I learned, that your vision can compel action. Okay, but beyond the vision compelling the action that led this person, and I always salute him. If I had his permission, I would mention the name right here and now. This is not the story. But those who were contesting me in that election, and the incumbent got to know about the person who had obviously was talking to sports media people. And I think they realized that this gentleman, if he's going to support Neil, it might make his bid even more credible. It makes him more credible. It makes him more resourceful to be able to traipse around the whole of Ghana and sell his compelling vision. But the question you asked was the role of money and what it plays in there. And that's how you asked me the question directly. Did I have? But I said to you, what I had was hope. And I drew the picture of what happened in the case or in the example of Barack Obama. And
through the hope, you were able to attract a certain level of resource.
Yes, I did. And then when I got disqualified, obviously we couldn't pursue the aspiration any longer. I did go through part of the process of appealing against the disqualification. My appeal did not succeed. I still had recourse or potential recourse to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is our court for final resort. I decided that, having seen how difficult the grounds were, how hard the grounds were, in fact, not how dry the grounds were, I would be just on a journey of futility if I continued.
Okay.
And I just rested the matter.
That brings me to the very key point about the similarities, so that there's resource needed. You need to travel the length and breadth of the country, just like you were representing or putting yourself up within the political party space. Now, there is the alleged influence of money, within the partisan political space, where, each delegate comes with a price, so that loyalty can be bought. These are all allegations that are made. I haven't paid money to any delegate on anyone's behalf before. What we all depend on are stories. There are those who say they have the evidence as well. But tell me what your experience is in our football space. Does money play a role when you're traveling the length and breadth of the country? Put all the other regular logistics aside. Do you need money sometimes, from your experience, to turn, the thoughts of these very powerful delegates or the members of this electoral college towards your direction and to vote for you? Do you need money? Do you have to hand over monies to them?
The practice I've observed is you call people to a location to present a message.
Very well.
Ordinarily, the person will be sitting, like we say in local parlance, somewhere thinking about himself. You've moved the person from his home or his usual place of domicile to a place. The person's expectation will be, all right, that you take care of his transportation. That is what I have observed. Now, in taking care of the transportation, the question that arises, which is where I'm pulling your preamble from, is what's the quantum of transportation?
Exactly.
So you're going from point A to point B. The regular transportation is 100 cedis. If the person has to take lunch, maybe another 100 Ghana cedis. So you'd expect that ordinarily you'll be giving the person 200 Ghana cedis. And yet, what I have seen or what I've observed sometimes is you have the quantums that are given being significantly in excess of what reasonably one would anticipate. And that's where the notion of influencing delegates with funds or with money, all right, has arisen. That's where that notion has come up. And you hear the stories from the partisan political space of the quantums of money that are paid out. And you can clearly see that if you analyze the quantum, it's far in excess of what ordinarily somebody should need. So then the question, like your question, is relevant. Does it play a role? Some may say yes, some may say no. I would say to an extent it might. However, where it is that you have two candidates of similar resource or wherewithal, and both of them are able to give to the delegates, whether it's in the partisan space or it's in the football space, all right, an equivalent amount or the same amount, who would the person vote for? It's hypothetical, but it's a relevant question to ask. That Nat, you and I are contesting an election. We give everybody who comes to the election on election day to the voting venue 150,000 cedis each. Who would they vote for? Would they vote for you or me? That's why I said the other day, and I stand by it, that beyond money, there's got to be something. And that something for me is relationship. Because the death of the relationship, all right, would almost always, or would usually, it would be very rare for both candidates to have the same depth of relationship with the candidates. And beyond the depth of relationship is, who are those other influencing persons, influencing factors on those delegates who could sway the delegates in favor of one of us who have paid the same amount, hypothetically. Do I have a godfather? Because in politics, they are godfathers. Do I have an influencer of some of the delegates? Delegates who on my own I can't convince, even with the money. But that influencer without his money can say to them that yes, Quid has gone left, Quid has gone right. But because of me, vote for Neil. Or because of me, vote for Nat. That's where I pull the relationship key. If you don't have that relationship, you could spend. I mean, there was an election, I can't remember which one it was, where the people were saying, if you think you have money, bring the money, we'll vote against you. Okay, but I see money as a compelling force. You have money. If somebody gives me money, I'm talking for myself, I'll struggle not to do what I promised to do. But there are people who don't struggle to say, bring your money, I'll vote against you. They may not say it openly, but when it gets in there, that 150 you and I pushed out, one of the people who promised one of us is going to go against his word. There are some people who can't do it, but the others who don't care, they will do it. It comes to your value systems. And the sad reality from all that we observe in our general population, in our national body politic, is people have gotten to a point where, in my respectful view, conscience is either fully lost or is gotten horribly lost. There might still be some modicum of conscience amongst us as a people. But people blatantly say it. You bring your money, I'll vote against you. They are no longer hiding it. It comes back to the values we hold as a people. And if we've gotten to the point of openly saying, if somebody say, oh, you're telling the truth. But no, you take somebody's money for a purpose. Fulfill that purpose. If you know enough to fulfill that purpose, don't take the person's money. And when I stood for FA president, I remember talking to some of the delegates and club owners. There was a club owner who told me straight up, Neil, I've given my word to one of your opponents. I can't sign for you. I will always salute that person. Because he told me he was straight with me. Others were not. But would I begrudge them? It's about the value systems. And when I found later on that those who had open face told me that we are in support of another person versus those who hadn't said so to me, rather had pushed me all the way to the brink, and then at the last minute they said, in fact they didn't even say anything, they just vanished. I realized that, and I keep coming back to my favorite term, the grounds were dry. And with the dry grounds, you can imagine that. So imagine if I had paid all the money I would pay, the grounds were still dry. I would have wasted resources. and I think that anybody entering into the enterprise for elective office must first of all look at the grounds. Your resources might have a role to play, especially for me in the conventional use of resources, logistics to travel and go and sell your message. I did similar thing when I was standing for National Chapters Committee Chairman of Accra to Folk. Okay, I didn't have too many deep pockets. I had an opponent who was supported by a lot of heavy people, but the little I had, I went out there, sold my message, and I won an election. But in that election, I was the less resourceful person.
Augustine Abuchi in the US has sent this message. He said, I know Neil Armstrong Motagbe. He's a brilliant mind. He should run again for GFA president. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Augustine.
Yeah. And Augustine is an Augustinian supporting a Motowner. Very well. You have to add that. Remember, it's 05511119997. 05511119997. The election is expected to come off, all things being equal, this coming week. It's on October 5, and it's supposed to happen in the northern regional capital of Tamale. What will happen? We're still waiting to see what will happen. But in the meantime, we're just looking at issues surrounding, putting yourself up for elective office within our football space and what the realities are, just in case you are not in on the realities on the ground. Neil Armstrong Motagbe once put himself up for presidency of the Ghana FA, has been operating as well within various capacities and various roles within our football system. And we're having this conversation here today on the Joy Sports Link. Join us, be a part of the conversations. Let's do a set of messages, and after that we resume the conversations here on Joy 99.7 FM. This is the Joy Sports Link.
Joy 99.7 FM.
The Multimedia Group, through Joy Sports and Joy Business, presents the last quarter sports thought leadership event under the theme Football Economy, repurposing our approach to development, the Saudi Arabian experience. Date Monday, October 9, 2023. Venue Labadi Beach Hotel. Time 6 p.m. prompt. This comes on the back of massive capital injection into the Saudi Arabian football market, with some very lucrative transfers led by that of the legendary Cristiano Ronaldo.
Breaking news, Cristiano Ronaldo has signed for Saudi side Al Nassr.
The football market in Ghana has some lessons to learn from this. What are they? Join us as we all find some big solutions and answers to these. Once again, it's open to all individuals and relevant bodies in the Ghana football value chain. This includes the Ghana FA, Certified Football Player Agents, the Ghana League Clubs Association, the PFAG, sponsors, supporters unions, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, and retired as well as active footballers. Football Economy, repurposing our approach to development, the Saudi Arabia experience. On October 9, we'll be live on the Joy News channel and Joy 99.7 FM. This is a Joy Sports Thought Leadership and Joy Business initiative.
Oktoberfest is here again. Ghana's premier 5-star hotel and your CMG hospitality facility of the year. Labadi Beach Hotel brings you another exciting edition of the biggest beer festival in the world, Oktoberfest 2023. Performing live is the Bayern Boys Band from Germany. Catch all the fun with German traditional food and beer at the plush Labadi Beach Hotel on the 6th and 7th of October 2023. For enquiries and reservations, please call 0302-772-501 or 0249-532-866. Oktoberfest Beer Festival. Come, let's party! Stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA.
Joy 99.7 FM.
We're just talking about beverages of air, and Neil says on a Saturday around this time he prefers to drink water. You know, water is life, and water is healthy as well. But one thing that also is very interesting is beer. Now, beer finds its way into our system on different platforms, and there's some very crisp, refreshing beer that will be served in the coming week. Next week by now, something exciting will be happening. It's Oktoberfest. Do you know of Oktoberfest? Well, it's Ghana's premier 5-star hotel and your CIMG hospitality facility of the year, Labadi Beach Hotel, bringing you another exciting edition of the biggest beer festival in the world. And I'm talking about Oktoberfest. So performing live are the Bayern Boys Band, BBB, from Germany. So you have to catch all the fun with German traditional food and beer at the plush Labadi Beach Hotel on the 6th and 7th of October 2023. For inquiries and reservations, just call 0302-772-501 or 0249-532-866. 866 or 0244 747 670. Oktoberfest 2023 is proudly supported by Brussels Airline. You're in good company. Oktoberfest Beer Festival. Come, let's party. Well, I'll be reading some of my messages to you in a bit, but that will be after I've told you about something that's here with a big bang. It's the eagerly anticipated Pick One game. So all you need to do is to choose your favorite number from 1 to 36. Stake and get ready for the excitement as we unveil the lucky number. So prepare yourself to unleash even more moolah by staking 1 Ghana cedi to 350 Ghana cedis, and you can win 26 times your stake on the amazing Pick One game by Game Park. Charlie, I did try to do some calculations for here, O'Neill. So by dialing *946# on all networks via our website, or download the Game Park app on www.gameparkgames.com. You could just watch live the draws on Adum TV at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. daily. Game Park, more Mueller, more power. The game is regulated by the National Lottery Authority, and it's not for persons under the age of 18. Just remember to play responsibly. All right, so more to come here. Let me just bring you these messages before we resume the conversation here. Remember, we're having a conversation around, the Ghana FA's upcoming elections and the realities, of what happens here in our system, so that just in case you're getting yourself ready for any of such endeavors, you know what exactly you're getting yourself into. Now, let's take this message, which is coming from Kwame Obing. Now, Nat, you are talking to a brilliant chap. Accra Neil has a lot to offer for football, for the football fraternity, not only in Ghana, but Africa and beyond. I wish him well. Thank you very much, Kwame Obing, for that message. I'm very grateful. There is another one, and this is from Elvis Herman Hesse, who is the chairman of the National Chapters Committee of Accra Hearts of Oak. He sends this message. He says, "Hi Nat, regards to my boss and predecessor. He is super intelligent and has always impacted my life since becoming NCC chairman." Elvis Herman Hesse Jr. Sends this message. Thank you very much. We'll be reading some more of your messages, but just remember it's 055 1111 997. 055 1111 997. Okay, so money is important. You need the money when you're moving, and the simple reason is that once you move a person from a place to the other to meet you and to have a conversation with you, you need to take care of the minimum of their transportation. That is a fact.
Yeah, it's the expectation.
It is an expectation as well.
The people you call expect it. It's not even about you thinking it's a nice to do. In his ordinary course of dealing on a particular day, he's not going to come to your event. So what should compel the person to come to your event? Maybe your ideas, maybe your relationship. But beyond the relationship, the person is not going to come there on the back of air. And so it's an acknowledgement that you've spent resource to come here. There are times where you may not even be able to cover the full cost of the person's travel, but at least you show a token of appreciation that he moved him or herself to where you are. There are those who would interpret it as vote buying, but I see it as you took the person from the person's regular place. There are times where people come and say, "Oh, Neil, it doesn't matter, don't worry, I did this for you." But there are others who expect it. It's a reality.
So you do not see it as vote buying. It's not vote buying.
I don't see it as vote buying.
Okay. Now, we talked about a few areas the other day on Joy News. One of the key areas, for instance, where the current FA president has gained some amount of praise is women's football. As we speak, the Black Queens are getting themselves ready for another phase of qualification for the next women's AFCON, the final phase. AFCON. Yes. Now, there's a lot of talk about how the front of women's football is looking better than it was previously. I want us to look at the developmental arm. I want us to look at football from the grassroots level, juvenile football, and the kinds of structures that have been laid. All over the world, the developed football markets are focusing heavily on the academy system. Now, the academy system has a lot of infrastructure, a lot of capital investment, a lot of technical strength to back up the industry as well. And generally these countries that invest heavily tend to gain from it. But we do not seem to have a strong footing within our developmental football space. Why do I say that? If you should ask for it, the last time I tried to check, I didn't get any proper answer. For instance, whether we have a proper database of all the football academies in Ghana, and whether we have standards by which, or compliance by which all of them are supposed to run.
I know for a fact that there are standards, because I've engaged with the General Secretary of the Football Association on developmental part of our football. So when it comes to the academies, there are standards. And there are times where you speak to Prosper Harrison-Addo, and he says there are entities that call themselves academies. If they are going to be rated against the standards that are set for an academy to be properly called, you would struggle to get a real full-fledged academies that will meet the criteria as stated. And you're right when we say that there's still a lot of work to do in the academy system, or for the academy system. The few that have built themselves up to a good level, the results are there to see. They've produced players who are making waves in the countries where they're playing. Classic case in point will be Enes Nyama, recent Enes Nyama, and also Kudus Mohammed. Mashida Shimero was from the West Africa Football Wafa Academy.
I mean, Kudus was from Right to Dream.
Right to Dream, yes. Yeah. As in the same as Enes Nyama. So Yao Yeboah, who went to Man City, I think his career has floundered a little bit, but in his earlier days, he looked like one of our major rising stars. But those are just a few examples of academies that are producing the quality of talent that goes to the potential of becoming world beaters. So back to the point that there still is a lot of work to be done in the quality of academies that we are putting together. But there are some who have seen that as the future and are therefore investing in it. There are not that many, because it's a capital intensive thing, and it's because it's so capital intensive that you have not too many people going into it. So the question then arises that for the few that are in existence at the level that we expect them to be at in terms of the criteria, what happens to all those other talented footballers who don't get to play in the academy? Because the academy has a certain capacity. It can take only so many players or footballers. The rest would have to be worked on in spaces that are not your classical academy space. And those spaces for me are what we used to call and still call cold football. And that's why for me, there still is a case for us to work strongly on our coast football. I think as we speak, there's this company, I think, please don't give me an invoice after I mention their name.
KGL?
KGL.
Yes.
There's a KGL Interregional Championships that's going on in Kumasi.
Yeah.
As we speak. I think they're starting today.
Yes.
So it's their investment in strengthening coast football, whilst it's also the FA's intent that whilst we strengthen coast football, we also see how we encourage more and more people to invest in academies. But trust me, I don't think a day would come, maybe in our lifetime, maybe in some other lifetimes, where there'll be so many academies to absorb all the top quality talents that we have. So whilst that remains the case, and our economy not encouraging enough people to invest in the academy, we have no option than to strengthen the coast football, build the capacities of the coaches, build capacities of referees who referee at that level. And for me, that's why the move by the Football Association to start the Catch Them Young referees policy is a brilliant move, because you got 18-year-olds. You have people who are even younger than 18-year-olds who might not be classic football talents in terms of the playing side, but they're so keen and interested in it that they've decided to go the way of the arbiter, that's the referee. And so they're being trained to referee matches of their peers and their contemporaries. Because if you catch a kid at age 15, at age 12, who is learning the art and craft of refereeing, by the time the person is 18 years old, 20 years old, the person can start refereeing, say, court matches. And then you have quality refereeing at the court level. And you don't have persons who are of a certain much higher level of maturity refereeing games being played by 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds. For me, that is a way of building the basics, all right, fixing those fundamentals, building a foundation for the future. These 12, 15-year-olds in 10 years will become 25, 22-year-olds who are refereeing games of much, much higher profiles at a higher level of quality because they started early. And that is in keeping with the maxim from the Bible, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he shall not depart from me. You should be saying amen by now.
Amen, Reverend Motagbe, the very Reverend Motagbe.
So that's really about the developmental side. So the academies are good. I've seen a lot of academies in countries where I've been, especially in Europe, and the way they start the children, it just reflects. It reflects later on in their lives, and the basics are key. Many a time I've said that, and this is not to take a swipe at our coaching, but some years ago, the way we start our young ones reflects in how we play. That's why we play we touch the ball so often and so much in the game, but we don't play with purpose. So it's people call it aggro. I don't know what aggro is, like play, but for me it's aggro with purpose. It's got to be playing with purpose. And the more we build the capacities of our coaches, the more we have referees who are strong and able to referee games properly, you find that your coach level becomes more attractive. The more, for me, we get the communities closer once again to where they used to be when it came to coach. So you go to Manprobi and this Ken Harrison babies, and there's all the hard and the strong. There's Noble Lyrics here. There's Adabraka Hearts babies. There was Tema Hearts babies. There was Tema Young Kotoko. All these had a certain bond with the communities, and that's why sometimes you find back in the day that when it is that there's a coach game match going on at Kotobabi Swag Park, Power Lines versus Olympic Babies, let me just use them as example, the crowd that you see there will be far, far greater than the crowd you even see today at Premier League matches. For me, it's to revive that community feel around the coast clubs. The persons who who run a lot of these coast clubs have moved on. Some of them sadly have passed on. The question was therefore, for me, was there a succession plan in mind? I think that part of the challenge we are faced with our coast football is because succession wasn't very well handled. And so you may find a coast club going either extinct or becoming very weak because those who were following the founder and the leader didn't pick on or pick up from what the founder or the leader started with. I think this is a very good case to strengthen our coast football because all those talents will not be caught up in the academy system. The stronger they are, the better we develop our young ones right from the beginning of their careers, and the more they will excel, whether it's playing in Ghana or playing for the national teams.
So, where if you're not able, so what then you are proposing is that if we're not able to meet the standards for an academy, then we have something which is maybe 50-50 or cast in the mold of an academy that can be run maybe like as a second tier product. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, and there's some that you wouldn't even run as a second tier product. You run it like what we used to call a classical coast club.
But there have been conversations about the coast system, especially with the strategic monitoring and the scientific element of the game. I'm talking about the players' well-being, general nutrition, progression of the player's physiology and all of that. You understand? And you cannot do that and monitor that effectively and get the most out of a player when the player is not under a system where there is full monitoring. Because with the coach arrangement, players are maybe in a community where we have a training, we have a training session today. They all come together. They go back to their respective homes or wherever they describe as their abode or something like that. So there is a level of disadvantage there.
That is true. So, and that's why you try to apply some of the elements that you just mentioned about monitoring. All right, and you handle them like a day school, for example, because the classical academy system, they are boarders. They live in the academy, okay, but you don't have a structure to take care of them, and yet these are talents that could go waste if you don't put them in a structured program. So my response to that would be, let them be in the coast team and run your coast team like a day school. Right, so you still have some of the principles that would apply in a residential academy, and translate them into into the course system. I still call it course. It may be a quasi academy, but I call it a course club. Learn whatever goes on there. We can't keep you in-house. But when it is that you come, we get professionals who would be working, who who would understand what happens in the classical academy, coming to apply their trade with the kids on a day school basis. They may not be there every day. They may come every week and just come and do a quick monitoring, check weight, check all the things that would ordinarily be checked in an academy on a more regular and daily basis. And you see, you can't supervise their food because they are day students, but you can monitor how they are and what kind of nutrition they are doing by taking these metrics. That's where I think that you have possibility of translating some of the disciplines that you have in a residential academy to a course club that is a non-residential academy setup.
Still here on Joy 99.7 FM, 055-1111-997, 055-1111-997. 25 minutes past 1 p.m. Still more to discuss here on the Joy Sports Link with Neil Armstrong Motagbe, who is a former National Chapters Committee chairman and also a one-time aspirant for the presidency of the Ghana FA. Julian Mills-Beale is listening from the US, says, listening to the program. Greetings to you and Neil. Big ups, guys. Okay, thank you very much, Julian Mills-Beale, listening to us from the US. Okay. Now, let's also take a look at the look and feel of our national teams. Well, there is this saying in our football, whether or not it is backed by science, we are not too sure, that when your national teams are performing well, it definitely then is a reflection of how well you're running football and how much strategic planning you've done, how much execution you've done. And in our context, in our African context, the first port of call is Senegal, who currently are dominating almost all the spaces in international football, on the continent. Now, the Black Stars are still in transition. The Black Queens haven't won an AFCON before. Our under-17 team couldn't go to the last World Cup. And there are quite a number of things when it comes to our national teams. So what would we say then to anybody who uses the Senegal experience and says, look at the guys, look at what they're doing. Our national teams may not be performing and winning laurels as we'd want because we haven't planned well, we haven't executed well, and we're still running in circles.
Well, the question, the thought on my mind then will be, for anybody pointing at Senegal, and maybe to a lesser extent Morocco, would be, what have they done? And when did they start doing what they currently have?
I'll give you an example.
Yes.
So Aliou Cisse has, been in charge of the national team for the better part of a decade, and he was given the chance to do that. Do we do that here? We don't. We're not prepared to give anybody that much time to work and achieve a goal.
So that's the reason why I said you asked the question. So 10 years ago is what year?
10 years ago is 2013.
It's 2013.
Yeah.
So then we need to look at our history since the same 2013. What have we done when it comes to our national coaches, for example, and what targets have we set? What have we achieved? I think that since 2013, and we've been in a couple of finals or semi-finals of the Cup of Nations.
Yes,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I think we were on a fairly good trajectory from 2006. In fact, this morning I was having a conversation where the person I was speaking with traced our 2006 performance as a national team back to 1999, where we had a certain crop of boys who played in an under 17 or under 20 tournament, and they became the foundation or the bedrock of the team that ultimately qualified Ghana to its first Cup of Nations. So the point about keeping coaches for a long time is a fair point. It's also important for us to understand that there are times where you have so much pressure. And what do I mean by the pressure? Ghanaians are thirsty for a trophy. And so you bring in a coach, and I'm not referring to any particular era. I'm just responding to the picture that you painted. The guy comes in, takes over the senior national team. We're using senior national team as an example. The results are not going so well in the beginning, and everybody starts clamoring for the removal of the coach. Question one I would ask is that why would the leadership not stick with it? But the leadership looks to stick with that particular coach, and the same citizenry say that the leadership have something to do with the coach, and so he's staying. For me, it's about us coming to a point to understand that as a nation, we are falling down the pecking order when it comes to African football. We rose to the zenith in as recently as 2010. Somebody say recently, yes, 13 years ago is far more recent than 1982 when we won our last Cup of Nations. So 2010, you were at the top there. Even 2022, you still qualified for the World Cup. What long-term project can we commit ourselves to and get the citizenry to understand that we are a nation at the national team level in transition, and therefore we need some patience? It's about managing the expectations. It's about putting forward a project and say, it's Project Ghana, we're in 2023, Project Ghana 2027. That by the year 2027, with the project that we have described to you, our fellow countrymen and women, we expect Ghana to be at this point. Please stick with that and appoint a competent person. The person may not get unanimous acceptance by everybody. There's no decision in football that I have observed that ever gets unanimous acclaim. What you would get is maybe overwhelming acclaim or majority acclaim. The leadership then stick with the project, and the results begin to show after some time. If we are not patient, we will not get there. I think that if you trace the record of Senegal when Aliou Cissé took over, there were some glitches in their performance, but they stuck with it. They stuck with it as a project. So it's time for us to decide and agree as a people that we want to win the Cup of Nations again. For example, we want to be at every World Cup over the next 4, 5, 6 phases, or go into perpetuity.
And talk about the Nations Cup.
Sorry.
Yeah. We've been counting. It doesn't
since 1982.
Yeah.
We've been to finals. We've lost on penalties. We've lost 0-1. So it's not like we've gotten extinct. It's just we've not won when the chips were down. There were times where we're lamenting our mental fortitude when it comes to penalty shootouts. We've lost to Cote d'Ivoire twice, 1992, and I think in the 2000s we lost. So we've been nearly there. I just wish we had even won one of them. So it's no longer 1982. It's at 2013. And so for me, I'm talking about a long-term project. It's about that long-term project where we can all commit to and have faith in the system, in the leadership, and to say the leadership will never be perfect. There is nothing for me. There's nothing like perfection. It's about getting maybe 75%, 80%, and then working with that 75-80% to deliver the results that everybody wants. You see, I just think that Ghanaians need to see a certain show from the leadership of the Football Association that this is the direction, this is where we are going, this is being done with meritocracy at the base of everything. When that is the picture and they feel, you get more support. When that's not the picture and they feel, then you have the challenge, especially when the results are not coming. And for me, that would be my response to the comparison between Senegal and us. And then they won their first Cup of Nations, went to the World Cup and performed fairly creditably. Their stars are, shining. Morocco, similar thing. But Morocco, I usually don't use them too much because the kind of resources they are pumping into the game, we don't compare. When I said that to a fellow Phobian of mine, he said, "What resource were we pumping in the year 2000 when we were playing at a Sakura Park called the Lotteries Park and we triumphed over Africa?" So I think that we are blessed with certain talents. We are blessed with certain ways of doing things, and this is not to encourage mediocrity, but to say even with the little we've had, we've triumphed before. Kotoko also won the Champions League, or in its previous form, and I think its previous form twice. So we've got that. It's, for me, just to summarize, a long-term project that says over the next 4-6 years, this is where we expect to get to. These are the criteria by which you must assess our progress over time. And when it is that Ghanaians see that and can commit to the project, then you come and sell the project to Ghanaians. And when it is that they comment about it, because we are all passionate about it, as leaders of the Football Association, we take it all in good faith and then move on with Project Ghana. Who wouldn't be happy to see us win a Cup of Nations again? Everybody will be happy. Not only the people who lead the Football Association, but the entirety of the Ghanaian people.
The entirety of the Ghanaian people, indeed. I know you've got thoughts, and that's the reason why you'd have to share them with us. It's 055-1111-997, 055-1111-997. So there are some likely outcomes. There's the possibility that, Judge Afriye could get his injunction granted by the courts. Once again, would have to look at a hypothetical situation that will obviously not be good in terms of the optics and all.
Yeah, I mean, the optics are one side, but the law is the law. You need to work with it. The Football Association also has a program, and it's got objectives that it needs to meet. And I believe that whatever is being done is being done within the confines of the law. The hope is that it doesn't get long drawn and protracted, such that it detracts from what's happening on the field of play. When these things are happening, then the attention that should be, for example, on our Ghana Premier League, which is it's going to week 3. You've got the KGL tournament we just spoke about. You've got the Access Bank Division 1 League also about to start next week. All these, then, in the minds of the citizenry, they seem to take a backseat, and we are all just looking at, there's a court matter here, there's an election this year, and the key performers, the players, they don't get the mention that they deserve. I always vote for the focus on the key performers, and we, the administrators, keep our keep our activities more on the back burner, so that the young men and women who play our game are the ones that shine.
Let's also, look at a few other things. Now, you spoke about relationships in football. Obviously, you came up with the idea of running for FA president during a period when Nyantechi and everything about him had sunk deeply into the minds of the delegates within the football fraternity. Now, how do you describe your relationship then and now, yourself and Kwesi Nyantechi?
At the time I stood for president,
Yes.
and now?
Yes.
At the time I stood for president, obviously, if somebody opposes your rule or your reign, you will not be as warm as you were before. But the relationship as of today, I would say it's a fairly cordial relationship. Occasionally we chat. When it is that I find reason to send him a message, either of encouragement or endorsement or something I've seen him do or I hear him doing, I've done that. There have been a couple of social events where we've bumped into each other. Funerals, a couple of funerals here. One interesting funeral was in Ablinkpe. Again, the James Oyedeji passed on. He was living in a property directly opposite my dad's home, and they felt they asked permission to use the living room of my dad's place to host dignitaries who would come for the funeral. And one of the dignitaries that came for the funeral was Kwesi Nyantechi. So I served him water in my daddy's living room, and we had a nice chat. He chatted with my mom, who was also hosting the people there. So I would say, all in all, it's a fairly it's a reasonably cordial relationship. We may not engage very frequently, but when it is that we engage, we still have a genial conversation.
What about Judge Afriye? These thoughts that you expressed, that you expressed on this platform, have you had the opportunity to have a conversation with him and tell him directly?
No, I have not.
Have you made any attempt to?
No, I have not.
Why?
Because I don't want to.
Why?
I don't see why. It's my choice. I don't need to tell him. I've said it to him publicly. His people have heard, and they probably translated to him. He himself would have heard by now. I don't think it's about me and me speaking with him. It's about me expressing a view. He will pick it up. Same way when he was going to contest, he didn't consult me. So I don't see the need.
You may not describe yourselves as like very good friends or.
Oh, I met him at the Congress in Kumasi. His comment was, "Oh, Mr. Nilan from Water, but the last time I knew you and my friend, I said we are still friends." Yeah, I mean, if I stood for every president another day and he's the owner of a football club, I would go to tell him about my vision. So for me, there shouldn't be acrimony. You know, when the conversation devolves into a certain level of acrimony, as we are observing, that's when it becomes, for me, and that's a very personal position, it becomes a challenge, because we will still need each other one day. And to that extent, whatever we do today, in my mind, or to my mind, we should be thinking of a certain future if we remain in life, or we remain alive. And so I would be genial towards you. I may disagree with your modus operandi. I may disagree with you on certain policies, but I won't become so rancorous, so acrimonious, to the point that a day will come where I can't look you in the eye and say hello. That's not the kind of football world in which I grew. And that's not the kind of football world I think we should look to develop. We may disagree vehemently, but that shouldn't devolve into a certain level of acrimony. That doesn't allow our football to grow. That doesn't allow us to breathe. I think that is the direction in which we should be looking to go. Whatever we do, we should remember that there's a tomorrow. There is always a tomorrow.
And of course, whatever we do as well, we're hoping that the election comes off. Either way, it comes off, and we're able to
in law, they say there's an end to litigation. There is always an end to it. Whichever way it happens, either one party deciding that I'm ceding my space, or a court of competent, or maybe a body of competent jurisdiction making a determination, there will be an end to litigation, and Ghana football will go on.
Neil, what's your stance on this phenomenon where we're almost always confronted with, cases that are sent to the courts? I mean, we just recently heard of that one by Kim Faisal that was thrown out. Kim Faisal wanted to be reinstated in the Ghana Premier League, and they were also in a way wanting to halt the start of the Premier League through the process, and what kinds of reliefs we're looking for from the courts. What's your view on this? Because this looks like something that happens. It's a regular, once the season is active and it comes to an end, and something, definitely we should have somebody go to court. What's your view on this?
My view is everybody looking at him or herself, do a proper introspection, and be truthful to yourself, and say, this process that I'm initiating, what's my role in getting to where I got to? Okay, so there are times where, and we can't speak to specific cases, but there are times where a particular club or entity has fallen foul of the rules of the Football Association. I mean, falling foul, you put the person's actions against what the statutes and the rules and regulations say. It's very rare the person has fallen foul, person gets relegated and still wants to go ahead. It's your right in law. It's your prerogative. Go ahead. But once you go ahead and you've gone through the whole gamut of the whole range of actions that you can go through, there will be an end to litigation. If you win, you win. If you don't win, you don't win. I that's how I see it. It's a freedom. It's a mode of expression. Everybody expresses themselves in one way or the other. There's sometimes you look at the facts, and the facts stare at you, and the facts clearly don't support what you are doing. But it's your right. It's your prerogative. You can't stop the person. So let the person go through. If the person gets to the end and CAS decides that you have a case, fine. If CAS says you don't have a case, you don't have a case. You come back to Mother Ghana and ply your trade. That's the way I see it. It's a matter of people expressing themselves, and you can't begrudge them. You can't stop them.
Well, let's activate the phone lines now so you could join us. It's 0302-216-541. 0302-216-541 and 055-1111-997. Let me go over them again. 0302-216-541. 0302-216-541. 055-1111-997. 055-1111-997. Let's take a quick look at the Ghana Premier League. What's this thing that football people say about the buzz around the Premier League gets into a certain level when Kotoko and Hearts are doing well?
Well, I think it's because of the mass following of the two clubs.
Just that?
Primarily that. Because when it is that they are doing well, you have a higher level or a heightened level of interest. And so every venue that either has a Kotoko or visit, you will find that the clubs will say it's their Cocoa season. And once the crowds follow the two clubs, you definitely get a higher level of buzz going on. Again, because of their mass following, just like it is in, give an example of Spain, you will find that there's so much more buzz around Barcelona and Real Madrid than the other clubs. It's no disrespect to them. They have the numbers, they command the figures, and therefore they would almost by natural selection be a stronger following and a stronger buzz, a stronger noise around them. It's nature, and nature takes its course. Like people say, water takes its level. So I see it more from the perspective of the following that these clubs have, and hence when it is that when they're not performing, also there's a negative buzz around them. You hear all sorts of things on,
and it extends to the whole image of the Premier League.
Yes, it does. It does.
Well, let's get on the phone line. We'll do some more on the Ghana Premier League. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Sir, I beg. It is not about football, but I want to talk to Neil Montagwell. I want to welcome him.
You want to talk to him? On the subjects that we're discussing today, or you want to talk to him?
No, I just want to welcome him. I don't know that he's in town.
Oh, great.
I'm the uncle.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'll please the producers to just make a note of the number so that I can call my uncle after the show.
Very well, very well, very well. You know, the talk about Africa, the participation in Africa, the strain financially, which is also another subject that comes up every other football season. In this case, you have a Mediama who have a slightly different story because they have a headline sponsor in a mining firm who have the resources and also put up some very good headline sponsorship for them ahead of the start of the season. What's the advice you'd give them? I mean, you've been with Accra Hearts of Oak for years, and you have seen yourself in the Africa situation before. What would you say to Mediama, especially at this stage where they're about to get back to a place we used to be 12 years ago?
Yeah, well, the advice would be, and I've spoken with some of the folks at Mediama, and I admire the efforts that they made ahead of entering into Africa to get the resources required. I also I don't know whether the promise has been fulfilled yet, but I do recall that the president of the land has advanced some resource and money to clubs that have qualified for that. Again, it wouldn't be, I don't think it's sustainable. It's also dependent on the position or the posture of whoever is sitting in the Jubilee House at a given point in time. But advice to the clubs, which was the question you asked, would be to keep working on their brands, to keep working on the communities that they can access to get support. And in Mediama's case, it's the communities around Takwa Damai and that particular traditional area. I know one of the things that they did brilliantly was to get involvement from the community. Get the traditional authority to support.
Hold the point about community involvement and community engagement by the clubs. Let me take this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Thank you, too. Please. I'm Adolpha. I'm calling from New.
Very well.
I'm very happy for the discussion going on this afternoon. It is very true that there are talents in like the coastal lands, but the problem is you pointed out some of them, and it is very true. So I'm just calling on you to defend down to the coast. Mingo can come. We have talents like under 12, the under 17, and their talents are just wasting. It is just wasting. So if the GFA can do something like create a center at the Ghanaman Soccer Center, do something for those who have the interest. You could see from the boys that the interest is there. They want to play the football. They have the passion. And what I believe in is passion. If somebody has passion for doing something, the person does it and does it very well. So I'm pleading that you should come down, create a center for those who are interested in football and other sporting activities, so that they can also utilize their talent. They will grow, and then the talent will just go waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're very grateful. Let's get to our next caller. I'll come back to you, Neil, on that point in a bit. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Yeah, thank you very much. Abu Mohammed is my name, and I'm calling from Blackpool.
Abu, it's been a while.
Yes, bro, I do listen to you more often.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, for me, in my opinion, I think there is no any advice we give to the people in the helm of our affairs, because they know better. They go places, they sit in meetings with these big people. They know exactly what they will do to transform the game. What at all am I going to tell them? So I just conclude that they just don't want to do the thing. Because they know better. They go to meetings, they go to wherever, and they know how it is done everywhere. They talk well. So what's wrong? This issue that this man discussed here is been discussed on this studio for so many times. He has been repeating. And then secondly, in my opinion, I think that this GFA, they are treating George FA just like MPP are doing to Alan Chamantin. So in my opinion, if it is possible, George FA should go independent, because I think he was courageous enough. He was the only person who was courageous enough to contest Mr. 90. All these guys, they needed this post then. Why were they not courageous to contest? Until when Anas did his things and they all jumped in. So me for the one, I never believed in them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abu. Just a key point there. You know, the Ghana FA's system is slightly different. You know, so it's an association of persons who invest in football and are affiliated with football clubs, and also have representatives from constituent bodies. And so one is unable. You cannot. Contest as an independent candidate. The individuals come there as themselves. So there is nothing like going to contest outside of the space as, as a candidate, as an independent candidate, like it's done within the partisan political space. It is also important to note that if nothing happens, as in if status quo remains, then on October 5, Kurt Okreku, the incumbent, will be affirmed. He will go unopposed as president of the Ghana FA. That's what we know for a fact. But of course, we'll have to wait for the coming days to see if any new development pops up. You were talking about the community engagement element.
Yes, and also the caller before the last one, she spoke, or the person spoke about talents in the Ningo Pram Pram, and that's why I talked about it's more of a community thing again. And you've got regional football associations, and then you have a district football association. So the FA at its apex may not be the one directly to go there, but then would mandate and charge, and where possible resource your RFAs and DFAs.
We have to look for money for Qatar. We have to look for money for him to go down and
Qatar.
Yes.
I call him Bra Qatar. I saw Qatar playing when I was a 12-year-old in Achimota School.
I see.
He was playing on one of the fields around there.
Wow.
And then I had a small stint through Anumle where he was also schooling. So that's why I call him Bra Qatar.
I see.
His senior brother. But it comes back to the point I made about not every area, all right, would have the benefit of an academy. And so talents are going waste from what was said by the caller. How do you get those talents to be within a system at least that helps them to develop? And that's why I think that there's a case for strengthening our codes whilst working to get many more academies.
Yeah, and big greetings to my brother and colleague Anil Sabute. Anil Sabute has a couple of friends. They've brought themselves together and are doing something rather interesting in the Ningo Pram Pram area. So they have resorted to the other models. I'm talking about something like futsal, for instance.
Okay.
there is the regular 11 aside as well, where some youngsters have been playing, and they have a little league format that is played every other weekend. So from time to time, Anil Sabote sends me fixtures of these, and of course, the regular problems of grassless pitches and all of that, they exist in that area as well. Let's start wrapping this up.
Joy 99.7
Technical,
FM.
Technical empowerment. The Ghanaman Soccer Center of Excellence is supposed to be our headquarters for, the technical arm of the game and beefing it up. There are those who have suggested that in terms of facilities, it's not top notch, especially when you want to compare it to, or you want to do some peer review. You go to Morocco, you go to Senegal, and you look at their centers of excellence, and you realize that we are still not up there. Because, for instance, we have not camped the Black Stars there, and the Black Stars should be able to camp in our main soccer center.
Well, they should be, and when I've spoken to President Ketu Kreko about it, it's not something that is lost on him. And when it was that he took over office in 2019, and I've talked about the backgrounds that we had going there, the state of the Ghanaman Soccer Center of Excellence was in a major state of decline after the FA took over. The last time I viewed pictures from there, it would suggest that a lot has been done, but there's so much more to do. What I've advocated, and this at a very personal level, is how we could turn that into a real center of excellence. But the question is, where will the resources come from? You talked about Morocco. Morocco's resources are not FIFA resources. The Ghanaman Soccer Center of Excellence is a FIFA project.
Yes.
And so
very well.
We need to put it in the context that FIFA provide resources for you to engage in certain activities. The King of Morocco didn't depend on FIFA to build that center of excellence that they have. That has become the talk of every African state. That thing, if I remember correctly, I was watching a video of it. It cost no less than was either 14 or 44 million United States dollars. That is certainly a resource that is not available to the Football Association. So the basis for comparison might be a bit tough to balance. However, that's not to say that we would not be happy to have our own soccer center of excellence. What is in Prapram, what is at Prapram now for me is a lot more land that could become the subject of a grand plan and a grand design to do our center of excellence, and to have an understanding with FIFA that you gave us resource to do X. We want to go beyond what your resources would do. And it becomes a collaboration between, for example, this government of Ghana and FIFA. And then the government of Ghana together with the FA go out there to solicit funds and resource to build it up to a point where we co-own it, and it's at a much, much higher level where our national teams can come. I see it more as a medium to long-term project.
Your relationship with Accra Hearts of Oak, how's it going?
Until the bones are rotting. Oh, I'm sweet with my fans as always. It's always, I'm on so many of.
You're an administrator. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done in Accra Hearts of Oak. I mean, big salutes to Togbi and the board, the rest of the team. Haven't you had any sort of nudging from the side? Somebody suggesting to you that you can go back to Accra Hearts of Oak. You should go back to Accra Hearts of Oak.
Well, I've had those nudges. If it's in the
but what about you? I mean, personally,
to where go back to Hearts of
Coach. I mean, we've seen many people do that. I mean, do second stints.
Yeah, but it doesn't lie in my power. That's basically what I can say. So for me, I'd make a contribution all the same. I keep talking about contribution. So wherever I am, whatever I am in a space, it's what contribution can I make.
But you left on a good note.
Yeah, I resigned. I didn't leave on as good a note as I would have wanted to leave, but I'm not there. I don't have enemies in Hearts of Oak. I'm still friendly with everybody. Yeah.
What do you think about what Togbi is doing?
Fabulous. Absolutely incredible. I mean, let's use the English word unprecedented. Okay, Pobi Man is there as an example. I mean, the old secretariat at Dabraka, opposite the Trust Towers, is sprung up nicely. I think that we're getting to a finishing.
I was there on the ground when the old building was raised
pulled down. Sort of a very sentimental moment.
Exactly.
But it's towards building a future, and I think that Togbi Afede's mind is clear. He wants to position Hearts of Oak as the leader in Ghana football. on-field of play haven't gone the way we would all have wanted. But just 2 or 3 years ago, Hearts of Oak won the double and also won the FA Cup the next year. There are those who say we've been at a higher level before, but juxtapose that against when he took over and the kind of struggles that we've been through. So I think that it's on the up and up. Last season wasn't good in terms of on the field, but off the field, I think infrastructure-wise, Toby Afede, you need to give him an A-star and hope that it will translate also into how our players appreciate the kind of environment that he's creating in the club, the resources that are being put at their disposal to flag high once again the flag of glorious Accra Hearts of Oak.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all other fans of all other clubs, and greetings to our friends at Accra Great Olympics. Later today, former MP for the is it Lejikuku Crow area, Dr. Okuboy, and a few friends and hundreds of people will gather, to unveil a new AstroTurf, which is expected to be Accra Great Olympics' new home ground, which will be announced soon.
Really?
So the Vice President is commissioning the pitch today, constructed by Wembley Sports Construction, Robert Coleman, and sponsored by Dr. Daniel Macaulay of Magdan Group. A second one within the enclave that he's built. So let's see what happens, and let's see what Accra Great Olympics can generate from that ground. What they can do from there.
Back to the community one, in that community, you go to Olympics home game, you know that you're entering some den.
What happened to Kaladan Park? Greetings to our friends from out to you. All right, so that's how we wrap it up here this afternoon. Thank you all so much, and always make time to celebrate someone. DJ Black is one of the most consistent faces that we have here at the Multimedia Group. He's been consistent and he's one of the big forces. Yesterday he celebrated his birthday. Once again, it's happy birthday. And we want to salute the legend Daddy Lumba once again. And big thanks to you, Neil. Would have the conversation on October 9. Invitation is open to all at Labadi Beach Hotel, so we'll be looking forward to seeing all of you there. More on the road to the FA election and whether or not it will come off on the day. We'll be here to bring you all of the updates and every other thing. And finally, a happy 70th birthday once again to brother Ishmael Eno Tete. He's the founder and head of the Ethereum mission here in Ghana. 70th birthday, Charlie. You go reach there before I go reach there.
I'll definitely reach there before I reach there.
Thanks to the whole production team. Showbiz A to Z will take over later on this afternoon. But hey, have a wonderful time, guys. And I'll see you soon. My name is Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for sport.